Module 3, the Comprehensive Plan in Delaware. Comprehensive Plan Overview. While we will cover information that relates to the Comprehensive Plan statewide in this section, this graphic is intended to show how the Comprehensive Plan will impact county policy and the day-to-day operations in the county. The following areas are some of the ways that a new Comprehensive Plan may impact the county. The first is environmental protection. The new plan will have updated maps and policies relating to how the county protects its environment and natural resources. Second is historic preservation. The new plan will likely highlight and update the information and policies related to historic resources in the county, and potentially outline new resources and studies that may be incorporated in the near future. The zoning code will also be impacted by the new comprehensive plan. As we mentioned previously, once the plan is complete, the code will need to be updated in order to align with maps in the plan. Other changes to the code may take place as well during this process. The county's approach to economic and community development is also likely to be impacted by policy recommendations and goals within the new comprehensive plan. Recommendations on new areas of focus for economic and community development are often key aspects of a comprehensive plan. Code enforcement will also be impacted by the comprehensive plan update in order to implement some of the new policy and zoning code changes that will be made. The county's capital improvement programming is also likely to be impacted by an updated comprehensive plan. The capital improvement program should be updated to reflect and align with many of the recommendations and new policies in the plan after the plan is adopted and certified by the governor. The county's approach to community design will also be impacted by all of the areas of the plan that we just mentioned. The county's approach to the environment, historic resources, economic and community development, code enforcement, the zoning code, and capital improvement programming all have an impact on the overall community design of the county as well as the design of individual communities. Additionally, some of the ongoing master plans being worked on or completed by the county will be incorporated into the new comprehensive plan. These master plans, such as the Route 202 Corridor Master Plan or the Southern Newcastle County Master Plan, are intended to target smaller, more localized areas within the county. By focusing on a smaller area, these master plans can implement change more effectively. Comprehensive plan characteristics. This slide is intended to outline the basic characteristics of a comprehensive plan in Delaware. The Delaware Superior Court case referenced in the center of the slide, Friends of Fletcher Brown versus the City of Wilmington, outlines some of the descriptions of a comprehensive plan that are referenced in this slide. Basic characteristics of a comprehensive plan include the following. It is statutorily mandated by the state. It is like a constitution for a local government. It controls and directs the legal use of property. It is implemented by rules, such as the zoning code. It serves as a vision of the future for a local government. It is all-encompassing, impacting many areas of policy. It is physical in that it focuses on the use of land and issues related to the use of land. It is meant to be long-range, focusing on growth and future change. It is an ongoing process, and it is a guide for development. Housing and community development element. Housing is one of the elements that must be covered by the county's comprehensive plan. In this slide, we see an example of a goal, a recommendation, and an action item from Dover's 2009 comprehensive plan. We also have a map from Dover's 2009 comprehensive plan. The purpose of this slide is to show how goals, recommendations, and action items are often structured in a comprehensive plan. Sometimes these items are called objectives or policies, but the point is that a comprehensive plan will often have broad goals that lead to more specific recommendations and action items throughout the plan. Transportation element. In this example of a portion of a transportation element, we see a portion of a plan amendment that the town of Camden, Delaware adopted in order to guide policy in their town. Transportation issues were identified in a study by both DelDOT and the town, and alternative solutions were developed. An endorsement of the preferred solution, a bypass route through the town, was included in the comprehensive plan update. The project was incorporated into the 2018 Transportation Improvement Plan by the Dover-Kent MPO, which increases the likelihood that the project will be eligible for funding in the near future. This recommended new road was also included in the town's 2019 Comprehensive Plan update and is an example of how recommendations made in a local government's comprehensive plan can impact future transportation decisions and investments. Environmental element. The environmental element of a comprehensive plan identifies notable natural and environmentally sensitive features and includes some technical analysis of environmental issues along with more broad-based environmental policy. The adoption of a source water protection ordinance, a flood hazard reduction ordinance, and a zoning ordinance requirement for identifying wetlands on development plans are some of the topics that are typically covered in the environmental section of a comprehensive plan. The map on this slide references the water resources map for the town of Clayton, Delaware, which recently updated their comprehensive plan in 2018. Land use element. The land use element is arguably the most important portion of the comprehensive plan. This is where the local government describes their current land use for each property as well as their desired future land use for each property. These recommended future land uses impact the zoning update that typically happens after the plan is adopted. Existing land use can be described using the following characteristics. It describes the current land use pattern, it does not always match the zoning, and it represents a snapshot or an overview of the current land use of a jurisdiction. When updating an existing land use map for a comprehensive plan, it is important for local staff, residents, and officials to focus on developing, redeveloping, or undeveloped areas that may have changed since the previous land use map update. Future land use can be described using the following characteristics. It outlines the desired future development pattern. It uses generalized land uses rather than specified zones that are referenced in a zoning code. It can be used to identify different levels of future development density and character. It serves as the basis for comprehensive rezoning and land use ordinances once the plan is complete. And it is a guide used for future development decisions relating to both growth and preservation. Existing land use. As stated in the previous slide, existing land use outlines the current land use pattern. It is a snapshot of the jurisdiction, and when updating the existing land use map, it is important to focus on developing, redeveloping, or undeveloped areas that may have changed since the last existing land use map was updated. The map shown on this slide references the existing land use map from the recently adopted Town of Camden Comprehensive Plan as an example of what an existing land use map might look like. You can see that the land use categories are general, identifying areas as residential or commercial rather than specifics of residential or commercial zoning districts. Some plans are more specific regarding land use than others, but usually the land use map is much less specific and has far fewer categories than a zoning map does. Future land use. The future land use map on this page is also from the Town of Camden 2019 Comprehensive Plan. As stated previously, future land use identifies the desired development pattern of a local jurisdiction. It uses generalized land uses such as the categories on the map in this slide. It can identify areas of increasing or limited density and character. It serves as the basis for the comprehensive rezoning and land use ordinance in the future, and it serves as a guide for future development decisions. On this future land use map, the Town of Camden has decided to label much of the town as mixed use, meaning that as these areas develop in the future, a mix of different land uses will be allowed in those areas. Intergovernmental coordination. Intergovernmental coordination is a required element of a comprehensive plan in Delaware. This means that as the county updates its new comprehensive plan, the state will want to know that municipalities, state agencies, school districts, regional agencies such as WillMapCo, service providers such as water and sewer providers, fire departments, utility companies, and advocacy groups such as civic organizations, business groups, and homeowners associations have all been notified about the comprehensive plan update and given the opportunity to give input and comment on relevant areas of the new plan. The comprehensive plan is meant to be all-encompassing, which means that many groups will be impacted and should have the opportunity for input and feedback. During the development of the plan, it is important to involve these groups in the process, incorporate plans and policies of other jurisdictions and agencies, and document outreach to neighboring municipalities and counties. After the plan is adopted, it is important to continue the relationship and communications started with other agencies and jurisdiction as the new plan is implemented. Implementation. This slide is intended to give an overview of how a comprehensive plan is typically implemented in Delaware. Again, the state has slightly different requirements of New Castle County, but the general steps of implementation remain similar. Typical required actions for implementing a comprehensive plan are to update the current zoning code to align with the new comprehensive plan. Zoning should be updated within 18 months of adoption of a new comprehensive plan for most local governments, and a direct link between future land use described in a plan and the updated zoning is recommended. An example of how this can be done is shown on the next slide. An annual report is also typically expected to be sent to the Office of State Planning Coordination by July 1st each year, in part to demonstrate how the plan is being used and implemented. Other implementation items include it should be based on the goals, objectives, and problems identified in a plan, are not considered mandatory by the state, include concepts for consideration and review rather than action, and can be worded in a general fashion. Land use and zoning link. This graphic is an example of the link between land use and zoning, showing an old map of the town of Townsend as an example. As you can see in this example, there are 5 different residential zoning districts, but all are represented as residential on the future land use map. Additionally, the future land use map identified the town center and institutional properties in town, which are not represented in the zoning map. This is an example of how a local government zoning map should align with the future land use map, but does not necessarily have to look identical to the future land use map. The New Castle County Comprehensive Plan covers a much larger area than the town of Townsend does, but the same general rules apply relating to future land use and zoning. This slide shows the future land use map from the county's 2012 plan update, along with the current zoning map, the current zoning map from that plan. As you can see, the future land use categories used are much more general than the zoning, but the updated zoning for each of these areas should align with the future land use categories. This completes Module 3.